Hey guys, welcome back to Cooking at Pam's Place. I'm Chef Pam and today we're getting ready to make some crispy, juicy, bone-in pork chops. We're making a pork chop sandwich. This is my recipe. It's a million ways to make your pork chops and cook your pork chops, but this is the way I make mine. And if you want to learn how to make all kind of homemade food and dishes, easy, simple, made from scratch, take a second and subscribe to the channel. Turn on that notification bell so you won't miss anything. And then just keep hanging around because I have a whole channel full of recipes that'll get you there. Let's get busy. Okay, we are back. I have all my ingredients here and we're kind of going to go over them as I use them. But before we get started, I just want to say if you are new to the channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you are returning to the channel, thank you so much for coming back. I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys, and thank you so much to all my channel members for your extra amazing support. So what we have here are bone-in pork chops. Now I've got the thick ones. These are probably about a ½ inch to an inch thick. I've got my tray of seasonings here, which I will go over these. I have a couple of garlic bulbs here. We have some pickled jalapeños, hot sauce, flour, cornstarch, mayo. So I'm going to bring you guys in just a little bit closer so that you can see exactly how to make these crispy, juicy bone-in pork chop sandwiches. Oh my goodness, they are amazingly delicious. Okay, first off, we're going to set our chops to the side while we get everything else prepared. Now, give you a little tip on cooking your pork chops so that they can be extra crispy, nice, just like you want it. You want to sit your pork chops out of the refrigerator at least 30 to 45 minutes before you are ready to cook them. You need them to come to room temperature because if you add cold pork chops into hot oil for frying them, what's going to happen is you're either going to have your outside, your breading, your coating really dark and your chops won't be done inside, or they will be just really over dry. You need it to all come together at one time. So I just put my mayo in here. Now to the mayo, we need to make it liquefied. I'm using this. A lot of people use eggs and butter or buttermilk. I use mayo, and this is, let me see here, jalapeno, pickled jalapeno. I am just using the liquid out of it to smooth out my mayo. I will have all these ingredients and everything down in the description so you guys can make it at home in your kitchen too. Now you want this to be pretty liquid, and we're getting there, but we want it to be a little bit more liquid. Before I add any more jalapeno juice, I'm going to go in with some hot sauce because the hot sauce is liquid as well. So you want to make sure you don't make it too soupy. Then you have to add a little bit more mayo in there to even it out. But this is going to give it that amazingly delicious flavor. Oh my goodness, and this is coming together really, really well. And this is what you want. See that? You want that. Now we want it to be just a little bit more liquidy because we're going to be putting our pork chops in this and we want the excess to run off. Okay. So now that we have this done, we're going to set this aside. Before we go to our flour, I'm going to go ahead and you want to dry off your pork chops. As you can see, I have them sitting on paper towels so that the bottom won't get too wet. Also, start heating up your oil. You want it to come up to about 350 degrees before we start frying them. So go in, make sure your chops are just super, super dry. You don't want wet chops. That's going to create a steamy pork chop and your exterior won't be as crispy. So remove this. Make sure your plate is dry once you remove your paper towels. You sit it back down on a wet plate, you're going to have wet chops again. And we will dry them off one more time after we blend our seasoning. Now, for our seasonings, I have here some garlic powder, onion powder, Himalayan salt, black pepper, a little thyme, sazon, and paprika. You just want to go in and mix this all together. Make sure it is well combined. Look at me over here making a hot mess. We're going to leave it right there for now. We'll clean it up in a second because you want to clean as you go so you can keep a clean workstation. But since I have to use more seasoning, I'm going to leave it there in case I waste some more. So first thing, you want to go in and rub your seasoning all over your chops. Now, I'm not going to use all of this seasoning for my chops. Some of it's going to go into the flour. But make sure you get all in the crevices and rub it in really, really well. These are thick, so do your sides. Do the bone, because if you like me, you're going to eat off of the bone as much as possible. So get that seasoning in there and we'll be right back. Okay, so now what I have here is flour, and this is self-rising flour, and this is cornstarch. You want to combine these together. The cornstarch is just going to make sure you have an extra crispy chop coming out of there. So make sure you combine that well, and while you're combining it, whatever seasonings you have left from your chops, go ahead and add that in as well. Go ahead and give this a good stir. And this is the point, you actually want to taste your flour. If your food does not, if your flour, your batter, or whatever you're using does not taste good or does not have enough seasoning before you cook it, then that means your food, your chop, your chicken, whatever you're cooking is not going to have enough seasoning either. So a lot of people miss this step right here, but I'm going to get a spoon right quick so I can taste this flour. Okay, so to taste your flour, get a spoon and just run it under a little water. You just want to dab it in the flour just like that and taste. Okay, it's good, but you know what? I'm going in with a little bit more salt. A little bit more salt. I'm going in with a little bit more garlic powder, and I am going in with a little bit more onion powder. We're going to combine this together, and that should do it. Okay. Now from here, we've got our mayo base over here. And because it had an opportunity to sit, it got just a little bit thick, and it's nice and runny, but I am going to go in with just a tad bit more of the jalapeno liquid. Just because I like mine really, really thin. I don't like it thick at all. So, the first thing we're going to do is get our chop into our batter over here. It's kind of thick, so I'm adding some onto this bone to make sure it gets all in there. Make it on the other side. Now make sure all the extra, any extra, runs off. You don't need that extra in there. So make sure it runs off. Then we're going to go ahead and put it in our flour. And make sure it is well coated. Get in there. Make sure it's well coated in there. Press it down a little bit. Make sure you got it on all sides. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Get it really nice and coated. You want to make sure you have all of it coated up really well. Now we're going to dip it once again. Make sure all of it's coated again. Drip any extra off. And back into our flour. That double dipping is going to give us an amazing crust on this pork chop. And they are nice and thick. These are going to be some amazing, crispy, juicy pork chop sandwiches. Yes. Okay. Shake any excess off. Make sure it's well coated there. Well coated, any extra off, and just lay it on your plate. Okay, we're going to get the other one done and we'll be right back. Okay, we are now at the stove, and once as your skillet pot, or I'm using my Dutch oven, is coming up to temperature, you want to go in and add your garlic in there. That's going to give it an amazing flavor. Now, there are a couple of things that we have done that will ensure we have extra crispy pork chops, and I will share that with you all shortly. Once you get up to 350, go ahead and add in your chops. These are huge, so I am actually going to cook one at a time. Make sure your oil is good and hot. Okay guys, our first chop is done. You want to cook it about 5 to 6 minutes per side, depends on how big it is. But look how nice and thick and juicy and crispy that is. Oh my goodness. And as you can see on both sides, all of the coating is still there. Put it on a wire rack, set over some paper towels. Go ahead, let your pot come back up to temp for a couple of seconds there. Then go ahead and drop in your next chop. Okay guys, you remember the secrets to getting this pork chop as crispy as it is to make sure you first bring it to room temperature and then make sure it's dried off. Now, I love mustard on my sandwich when it comes to pork chop. Yes, and look at this once again. Oh my goodness. Look at how nice and crispy that is. Yes, yes, yes. We're just going to lay it right up there just like that. Just like that. And we are all done. Thank you so much once again for coming. I'm going to bring you up close. As I was saying, thank you once again for coming and hanging out with me today in my kitchen. I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys. And I will see you next time. The good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. Oh my goodness.